Welcome to the Intentional Household Podcast. I am your host, Laura Wilson. Today, we're talking about a topic that sounds light. It sounds like so much fun, a great idea, but it can quickly turn messy if you don't put thought into it. So we're talking about how to plan a vacation with another family and actually enjoy it. Today, we have Tatiana Rivers. She is joining us again. She is a part of the Intentional Household family. She is also a mother to 3 kids. She knows all about planning a trip with her own family and other families. So we wanted to bring her on to talk about her experience and how you can plan a trip with another family and keep the stress low.
Thanks for having me, Laura. I'm very excited to talk about this. We were talking recently about a trip I did over the holidays where I went to Disney and I went with another family, and you were like shocked that it turned out well, and it did. So I learned a lot from that of why I was successful. Traveled before and it hasn't worked out that well. So with kids, traveling with kids in general is very difficult. And then you layer on another family into that. And I think some people might be that in and of itself would scare them off, just the concept of traveling. But at the same time, it's a great way to spend quality time with a good friend or family. And so instead of, shying away from that, maybe we can come up with a good plan and give tips to make it easy.
Exactly. And we should add the trip you went on, it was to Disney, and it wasn't just with another family, it was another family of family members.
Yes.
So that also adds
absolutely
another element.
Could be, very tricky if things don't work out through your family. So that can be quite awkward. But no, it went really, really well.
Yeah. And you are all about systems. You're all about being proactive and being intentional about your planning. So you are a great person to be talking to about this topic.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know about you, but you enjoy your time with certain friends. You may go out for dinner together or just spend the afternoon together as your family. And it just starts with one person saying, this is so much fun. We should go on a trip together. And in your head, you may be like, that's a great idea. Or you could also think, I don't think this is a good idea, but I don't know how to communicate that it's not a good idea. So having this practice or this kind of criteria that you're going to talk through can help to bring out maybe your differences so that you may not even have to communicate. Actually, I don't think it's a great idea. It just makes it crystal clear that, okay, we're either on the same page and we can go away together, or you know what, maybe just these afternoon get-togethers are the best for us. So let's get into it. Before you book anything, what do you think is the first thing families should be talking about?
I think, it starts definitely before booking anything. Before even having a discussion with friends, I think it's important as your family unit to know how you like to travel. And if you're planning on any vacations for the year, I think most people put thought into it pretty early, budgeting wise, what do they want to do? There needs to be an idea of what do we want at our vacation time this year? You have limited vacation time, most people with jobs, and with kids and school and sports. So you usually you're forced to be pretty selective already on what kind of vacations that you're going to be taking in those little kid years.
That's right.
So already there, just having an idea of what kind of vacations do we want? What's our why to go traveling? Is it to experience things like a lot of activities, really jam-packed new experiences? Or are we needing to relax and recharge and do nothing and not be jam-packed with things because the rest of the year is so overprogrammed? Or even between partners, you may have different ideas of what you want to do on a vacation, and then later on children. So as a family unit, you need to know what do we want out of vacations, so that when somebody asks you hey, let's go on a trip together, you already know we're planning to have a really relaxing one this year, or we were thinking of being this is the year we want to do something where we have an experience. We do something really challenging with the kids and we have this experience together. I think that already would weed people out that may be oh, that's not for me this year. We are going for the more easy kind of all-inclusive trip. So I think just that, kind of pinpointing what you would want from a vacation this year with your unit.
It's such a good point to establish it for yourselves first, because when that other family proposes, hey, let's go away together, Alex is in his adventure stage of life right now. So he could be thinking in his head, let's go on another adventure with your family, Tatiana. And you may be thinking, we had a big trip. We went to Disney. we really need the time to unwind.
Mm-hmm.
And so right off the hop, you're on different pages.
Yeah.
So it's establishing, why do you want to go away? What's the purpose? Adventure, sightseeing, relaxing.
Yeah. Very different vacations.
Yeah. So that's the first step.
Mm-hmm.
Second step, budget.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we have a yearly budget and like travel is one of those buckets, so that in of itself is going to determine what kind of a trip. And so we were talking about this, like our Disney trip that we took this year. It's a big expense.
Mm-hmm.
And before I even went on this Disney trip, I talked to friends and some of the prices that they were telling me sounded insane, like $5,000 a person. We were a family of 5. I'm like, well, that's a lot more than we played on any other vacation that we've been on. I understand it's a whole different experience. And that required us to like look at this, be like, okay, are we going to go? And there's a reason why it's that much. In some cases, you opt in for a lot of these additional things to do. So we'll get into like specifically budgeting for your trip with another family, making that work. But for ourselves first, of like what kind of budget that we needed to have. And, that hit a max for us already. We're like, if we're going to go to Disney, it needs to fall under this and cannot go over. For all the other things that we have on our budget this year, this is, if it works with this, then we can go. That's also important, especially before another family comes in. They're like, we want to go to Disney, but they want to do all the other experiences and their budget's different. And that could be very awkward, especially with children.
Yes, it can be very awkward. And it can really be stressful if you're on either side of it.
Oh, sure.
And your budgets don't align. I'm just even thinking about, let's say you're two families who want to book an Airbnb together.
Yeah, which is what we did.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And one family, they just have different expectations in a different budget for how much they're willing to spend.
Oh, yeah.
So really getting that out in the open. I know that part is often overlooked, but almost the most critical.
Absolutely. Because I also think that, so many people, once the ball starts rolling, they don't want to cause a fuss. They don't make an issue, or they don't want to make things awkward. So they may agree to stuff that actually, then they're like, I regret this. We are blowing our budget.
Yeah.
I actually don't want to do these things.
No, that's it.
Like, what message am I sending my kids doing these things that, I think were frivolous or unnecessary? Or vice versa. I feel like I'm being pulled back from a once in a lifetime experience.
Yes.
And like constrained. And I don't want to feel bad about this. And I've been waiting for years to do this trip. And now all of a sudden I can't do the things that I want to do. So you don't want to be in that position.
No, you don't. So our family goes on a trip, or we go on a vacation rather, with another family every summer. We book accommodations together and we talk about the nightly rate that we're willing to spend together. And so we're very much on the same page. But if there was another family who was coming into this, and if their budget was different, it doesn't mean that the vacation can't still happen. But in that case, maybe you're finding 2 different accommodations, or maybe you're going to a different kind of place. So like I was saying, we book an Airbnb together. We've also stayed at a resort together. If you stay at a resort, sometimes the accommodations within the resort can really differ in terms of budget.
Yeah.
So that could be a good way to collaborate so that both parties are happy.
Yeah. Definitely establishing the budget so that people don't feel like awkward. It can be really awkward. Like you're traveling together with a family and one family's got this like crazy Airbnb, and then the other family's like, the kid's like, what's going on here? So, it's really making sure that, everybody's really comfortable with what the spend is going to be. And again, that could be criteria right there and then. Just be like, you know what? You guys want to go on a very different trip than we want to. Yeah. You guys want to spend a lot and you're absolutely entitled. And like, that's your big thing for this year. We don't want to take away from that or make you feel constrained. Right there, that's a reason to not maybe do that trip together.
That's right. And it's all about respecting the other person and their budget, because if the other party is not receptive to it and they're like, you know what, it's going to be a great time.
Yes.
Come on, let's do this together.
Yeah.
Or like, you know what, do you need this fancy place? Maybe you can just stay with us. Don't try to pressure or be pressured into changing your standard or what you're willing to accept.
Another big pressure point is actually grandparents.
Okay.
They sometimes have like, okay, we're going to go on our big family trip. I have several girlfriends that I know this happens where they may pay for certain parts, but the place that they've chosen could be really expensive. And they're like, oh, we're paying for part of it. But then everybody else is expected to pay for the rest, but it's still well over their budget. And it's like, this is the family trip. Everybody's expected to go. It can be really awkward. So yeah, really having that time to map things out and very clearly communicate before, especially between family and friends, but kind of necessary. Otherwise, it's going to be a terrible time.
Yeah, it would be for sure. And I certainly have the standard of place that I want to be staying in, and I don't want to change that because of someone else's budget.
Yes.
Let's talk about accommodations then, because this does relate to that as well. What discussions do you think people should have around accommodations?
Yeah, well, I think the big one would be whether you're staying on a resort, doing an all-inclusive, going in Airbnb, understanding how close you're going to be together. If that's something you've never done before, maybe baby step it a little bit. Baby steps into that kind of environment. Like, for example, let's share an Airbnb together. Sounds like really nice. If that's the situation, like make sure there's enough bathrooms and space for everybody, because otherwise you could just really be in a situation where you're not used to spending this much time with another family, and just lots of personalities in a small space can all of a sudden make it feel not enjoyable or stressful. Just a lot of energy and that you can't get away from.
A lot of things seem like a great idea at the time, right? Like, we're okay. We can all share one bathroom because it'll save some money. And then you get there and you're like, whoa, 2 families of 5 sharing a bathroom. That's a terrible idea. But what I would say is it's almost like if you're purchasing a house, you have your needs, your non-negotiables. It is creating that list. So for my family, it would be, we need to have our own bedrooms. First of all, the kids are not sharing bedrooms with anyone else. We need at least 2 bedrooms. Generally, we like some water access. We do want to have our own bathroom. Laundry, not as big of a deal. That's a nice to have, not needed. 100% air conditioning we need. That's the kind of thing you take for granted.
These are little comforts that your whole like sleep better, all of those things. I mean, cranky kids, not a good time. So, trying to also just traveling in a different environment with children, again, they're going to be thrown off their schedules and trying to get things, get them comfortable. But then also having to accommodate for another family, like you really do need to make sure that you have taken care of your needs first.
Yeah.
And having that list, I don't think you can go in blindly and be naive and just be like, oh, it's going to work itself out. Again, you just run the risk of having a not good time and then having an argument with a good friend or family member over something like that. So trying to avoid those situations, you have to become prepared. And yes, like you said, have your list. I like to start a WhatsApp chat group immediately. This is what we're doing.
Okay.
Also, it's funny, like some people will want to take more initiative. Yes. And some won't. And I think even identifying that in the beginning, like who wants to take on, like if we're going to plan activities, who wants to do the final like decision on where we stay. I actually like step back. My husband, in the situation we're going to Disney, we're going to do an Airbnb. My husband and my sister-in-law really like thoroughly researching stuff. Whereas my brother-in-law and I were like, that place looks great. We're good. You guys take over. Otherwise it's too many cooks in the kitchen as well.
Way too many, like 4 adults doing all the research. That's just a waste of resources.
Time and resources, which we do not have.
It is. And it's almost, that's where your Colby or Print could almost help, because I know that so again, Colby helps you to determine how you solve problems, how you operate. And so certainly when we're going away together and we're researching and planning, we naturally fall into our strengths.
Yes.
And so just allowing people to do what they want to do and what they're good at, rather than expecting, well, like Tatiana, she hardly helped with this, but you know what? You are probably going to step up elsewhere. And I'm sure you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. That's exactly that. Like knowing where people are best used. Like I filled in with like meal planning and all that sort of stuff. My husband, that's not his area of expertise, but he was going to get the best Airbnb deal he could possibly find, and he got a great one. So having that, just knowing where everybody is going to be, and also still using that list. What's everybody's wish list for things? What are our must-haves? We all came together, like we know budget, we know what we want to do activity-wise. So again, Disney has all of those like add-ons. You can have like princess lunches and all that. And I was like, I'm not going to do this, because I think that for us, like we're going to see lots of Disney characters around. For me, that was money that I didn't want to put there. I was going to put it in somewhere else. The kids wanted souvenirs. Whereas my sister-in-law, she's like, we want the princess lunch. We don't want the souvenirs. We don't want the stuff. Great. But we were going to have to be very careful that our kids aren't seeing each other get these things.
Mm.
So even that, like she took her daughter for this princess lunch. We did something separately, but we didn't talk about it.
Okay.
So that it wasn't like, oh, she's got this special thing that you guys don't get to have. And then even with their souvenirs, we're not going to purchase them in front of, my niece, because that was one of her things. She's like, I don't want to come home with a bunch of stuffed animals. And so those were just things that, we need to come together well in advance before there's a meltdown.
That's a really great point, because I wouldn't want to be buying all that stuff because you were in Florida, then you'd have to carry that home.
Mm-hmm.
And so establishing that right off the hop, rather than a family coming home, look at all this stuff we got. And then it poses a conflict with
For sure.
your
With
own
kids trying to explain that is, it can be difficult. And then you just get really emotional children. And that's not fun to have to deal with. So everything has to be done well in advance of like what you want to get, even all the nitty gritty, what we're going to be, spending our free time on, meal planning, everything. Like I said, create a WhatsApp chat group, make your criteria before anything is booked.
One thing I love about what you had just said there is that you and your family did one activity and then the other family did a different activity. So just because you were going away together didn't mean that you had to spend all of your time together. And I think it's important to recognize, let's do some group stuff, but our family, we want some solo time as well. Because if you are going to be together, hey, it's hard enough being together with your own family on a trip 24/7. But then also if you're together with another family 24/7, it can be a lot.
Oh yeah. I go crazy being in the car with my kids.
Yeah.
And then having other kids, it's a lot of energy.
Yes. So building in recognizing that there will be some time together and then some solo time and respecting it and not saying like, hey, well, that's too bad. I mean, we're hoping to do everything together.
Yeah.
If a family doesn't want to, respect it.
Yes, definitely having this. I feel like that's the first place to start is really just almost like we're going to be at the same location together and see how this goes. Try to have some meals together. That's probably the best way to start a communal travel situation and to see how that worked out. But having your own space, definitely is a must at some point. Everybody needs some time to decompress. Just little kids, especially, they don't have off switches sometimes. They're just taking it all in and you need to be able to remove them sometimes and be like, okay, you now need to get some sleep, go to bed earlier tonight and all of that and have that control. Whereas if you're in a communal environment, that becomes a lot more difficult, especially if there's like older kids, younger kids, different bedtimes, that can make things very complicated. So
it can. And even establishing that in advance, talking about it, because if it's vacation, some families may say, you know what, it's vacation. We don't have bedtime. It's fine. We're willing to go with the flow. And another family may say, hey, it doesn't matter if it's vacation.
No, my kid's a nightmare in the morning.
We're still doing this bedtime. So it's almost having that conversation about bedtime, maybe even screen time.
Yes, definitely. Those things are really big.
That kind of thing in advance. The family that we go away with, we're very much on the same page.
Yeah.
And so it has allowed us to continue doing this without conflict. And we haven't had this, let's say, strict structure or conversation, but naturally it has come up. I guess because I can be so rigid and I don't want it to be stressful.
You're rigid, just, particular on what you like and you know how to communicate it.
And we both very much respect each other's wants and the way they operate. So no one pressures each other into doing something else. And so that has worked out really well for us. But it's not going to be easy with every family.
No. And you know what? So this Disney trip, I just almost forgot that. So I planned it with my sister-in-law, but my younger sister was also there at the same time. And so of course, naturally, it was, random that like her husband had a work function. So she's like, I'm going to also go to Disney. And we're there at the same time. This is great. I'm like, yes. Okay. What are your plans? 0 plans. We're going to fly standby. 2 kids. We're not going to bring a stroller. Like just very different. And, right away I was like, okay, we are doing 2 different vacations. This is where my address will be. If you're able to come join us for things, great. If you can't, no pressure. Because that's just not the way I like to travel.
Yeah. Winging it, no plan.
Yes, no, where she loves that.
Yes.
It's excitement. She doesn't want to have that. She doesn't want to feel constrained. She doesn't want to be told where she needs to be. Even, the park times, we're like, we're going to be there in the morning, and she was just like, no, we are sleeping in. I'll see you when I see you. So very different vibes. And like, that's my sister that I've grown up with. And like, would not be able to travel well together in a very close proximity in that way. Like I think very flexible. You come see me when it works for you. Because that's our relationship for travel. Whereas with my sister-in-law, we did do a lot of activities, but it was very planned out in advance. And that worked for that.
Yes. You're talking about a plan there and pace. Your pace was very different.
Yes.
And so that also could pose an issue because maybe you guys have a wake-up time, right? You wanted to be at the park for a certain time and sounds like they didn't. And if that is crystal clear and everyone has that out in the open, you're like, hey, we're going to stay at the same place, but we are going to be up at this time and everything is crystal clear and she has an understanding. And as long as and I'm sure she was like, hey, that's fine as long as we can sleep in. And right. And you don't expect us to join in. But it would be very challenging if you didn't know that and you went away together and you both show up and it's like, okay, it's 7 a.m., let's go. And then they're like, wait, what? We're on vacation, right? Like we wanna take it easy.
Yeah, and she can get quite testy. If, if we don't agree on the same thing and that's not what she wants to do. On that, so the family that I traveled with, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, they were great, except for my brother-in-law forgot to mention that he would be taking some work calls. And we're in an Airbnb. It's a very large Airbnb. So he's like, oh, no problem. I'm going to be able to find some place to take some work calls. With children, that it was, maybe not the best thought out plan. It should have been more like, I need to take these work calls. The kids have to be out of here because the kids don't care about it was a little bit chaotic. And that was the only time it was just like walking on eggshells and we weren't expecting this. We're like, how long is this work call going on for? This is kind of, we need to be doing stuff and getting the kids ready. And
because it affected all of you.
Yes, it affected all of us. And it was just something that wasn't brought up. It was once we arrived, it was like, oh, by the way, I'll be taking some work calls. So that kind of stuff is you can't spring that on people if you're going to be traveling. If work is going to be part of it, you must let people know and let them know so that they have time to plan around that. And then it's not this awkward situation.
No,
I didn't know we did anything wrong.
No, exactly. I mean, I can picture our family having just sat in a vehicle for, I don't know, what feels like an hour because Alex had to go into the bank or something, right? Unexpectedly on our way to an activity.
Yes.
So communicating that in advance because maybe we would have used that hour differently.
Oh, definitely. Yes. All of those things can happen. You can still go to the bank.
Yeah.
But your family doesn't need to sit in the van sweating and waiting.
Yes.
Yeah. Easy fix.
Screaming kids.
Yes.
Okay. Next criteria, let's just say food preferences.
Oh, yeah.
Because this also can cause a lot of conflict.
Definitely.
And this could go back to accommodations as well, because do you want accommodations that have a kitchen? Some people may want to save money. And again, it depends on the type of trip. Because if I am going on vacation, let's just say I'm renting a cottage.
Yes.
It's my trip too. It's my vacation as well. I do not want to be cooking. I don't.
Who's cooking?
Yeah. So who's cooking, right?
Yes.
So it's are we going to spend some extra money to have some meals kind of catered or are we going to hire someone to do it for us?
Yeah.
Because I certainly am not going to be the one doing it.
Yes.
And I don't want to be pressured into doing it either. And so again, the family we go away with, they are on the same page. They don't want to cook either. And so we can all agree that we will have the food outsourced. But if, let's just say she said, it's going to be okay, I will take care of all the meals.
Oh yeah, then you feel bad.
Then you feel bad, right? That's not a good combination because you feel bad. I'm going to end up helping.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to feel resentful, right? Because I made it clear that I don't want to cook. I ended up cooking.
Yeah.
So you really need to be aligned there.
Yes. And then again, with kids with food preferences or diets or whatever, or how much sweets they're allowed to have, that's a whole area too that you can't just ignore. And it also needs to be addressed of what are you guys okay with eating? And that gives you time to accommodate.
Yeah.
If you need to have a plan of action with your kids being like, hey, this kid is not allowed to have any sugar.
Yeah.
Please don't eat sugar in front of them. That's really not nice.
Yeah.
So you guys are allowed to have some, but we're going to keep it at certain times and you're not going to do it in front of X, Y, and Z. Privately, we'll go ourselves and enjoy some things that this one can't have because she's just too young. Okay. And she's not going to understand and she's going to have a little bit of a meltdown. Also on food is budget comes into there. And that's one that can easily escalate on dinners out, wine, who's paying. Sometimes some families are just we just split the bill. sometimes that is not fair, especially if like one family doesn't drink any alcohol and the other is consuming lots of alcohol.
That's right.
It's not just split the bill. Or, oh yes, we've had that with friends trips where there's like, some friends are like, start cocktail hour early, lots of drinks have been had before we even arrived and we split the bill. But the bill has so many drinks that I never even ordered. I had like half a glass of wine and I'm paying for like 12. So those are things that it's like, okay, but could we have discussed this earlier?
That's true. That's such a great point because if you are doing a lot of things together, dining out multiple times, you're getting groceries for everyone, establishing how that is going to be split. Are you going to take turns or are you going to follow a spreadsheet and then in the end split it up?
Yeah.
Something like that so that people aren't resentful, especially like you said, when alcohol is involved.
Or if large family sizes, all of that, like, just those little things that we use Splitwise after to put in receipts and that sort of thing. So being able, but you do have to be conscious of like who consumed what. And most of the time I prefer not to split.
Okay.
And just, we take care of us. Like, the restaurant can figure it out.
Yes. Yes.
Don't worry about that. But some people have this like tendency to want to, for some reason, just split things evenly. So I would say avoid that.
Yeah. Okay.
Avoid that and just take care of your family. They take care of theirs. And then there's no issues around that.
You mentioned an app. Can you repeat it again?
Oh, Splitwise. Splitwise is an app where you can input receipts and then you can assign people or the whole group and it will distribute costs.
Wow,
it calculates it and then it tells you how much you owe at the end of the trip or whatever it is. We've used it for many things.
Wow, that's a great idea. And do you have one owner of it?
Yes. So they'll invite you. Okay. Somebody has to invite you to the group that's doing the split, however that is. But even if you have your own account, you'll just be added to. It's like a WhatsApp chat almost.
Okay.
But it's an app to split bills. Basically.
Oh, I love that.
We'll link it.
Okay. Yeah, great idea. We talked about spending time together separately as families, but we didn't talk about actual solo time as individuals or as parents.
Yes. And I think that's important, especially when you're going on a vacation, family vacations, so easy to just say like it's this for the family. This is for us, this is for experience. And like whatever your needs are going to be last now in this very long list. But I think that, it's really, you got one life to live. It is important to have some time for yourself. Even if it's something small like going to the gym for me, I don't want to go with anybody. I want to go by myself.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to feel like I have to do a workout with you or talk to you in the gym. I want to go by myself.
Okay. Let me have, and guys, if you want to go to the gym, you go the hour after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was like something for me. Like I have to figure this out somehow.
Okay.
It means getting up earlier than everybody. If it means like just carving some time, when am I going to get this in? Luckily for them, they were all like, yeah, me too. So let's figure out when we can all do this or whatever that is. If I just want to do a spa treatment or something, I really recommend that you have to carve out some time just for yourself to also enjoy the trip rather than just like accommodating for so many people and getting just caught up with that. And most of the time, if you don't plan for it, as you always say, if you don't plan for it, it's going to be taken away from you.
It will. Yep. So you put that in advance almost.
Yeah. Not as advanced as I would have liked. Not until I realized and I went there and I kind of checked out the gym and I was like, okay, yes.
Okay.
I really do want to make sure I get some gym time in. Doesn't need to be much, but I just want some, I think it's decompression. Again, quiet and like no one around me. And that's what I needed to kind of feel like, I don't know.
I mean, even it could be something as simple as like a walk.
Yeah.
Just time, even like sitting on your own to read your book or even just laying on the bed alone and having no one bothering you.
Another one, of like big thing of just like who's taking care of the kids, in order, because sometimes with a group, who is actually watching them? Very easy to somehow lose track.
It is very easy. And I will say, so our kids at our grandparents' house have an inflatable, very small pool, like kid-sized pool. And it came with, I don't know, a whistle or something. And it said like designated person watching the kids. And I think we kind of chuckled when we first saw it. It's like, okay.
Oh, smart.
Right. But then I realize now, no, you actually, whether it's a small pool or a big pool or a lake.
Oh, yeah.
Right. When there's water involved or any other elements, really, you actually do need that person designated.
Absolutely. Because you're socializing. I mean, we've had that experience before. Like we were at a cottage and we were all socializing. And then all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, where's one of the kids?
Yeah.
And we like all of a sudden just went into panic mode because no one had really is like, I'm watching for all of them. All of us were like kind of just involved in a conversation or whatever. And then we realized that no one was watching and his 3-year-old. that had like wandered off by the water.
Yeah.
You know, a very like scary moment. And after that, it's like, no, you need somebody constantly watching kids. And any vacation spot is water or lots of people or
Yes.
something of that nature. We also, Disney almost had a bit of a scare too with one of the kids wandering a little bit away and we did not see her for a second. Same thing while walking out of a ride, talking, realized one of the kids is not beside us. But yeah, you get into a panic mode when you're just off guard a little bit because there's so many adults.
Yes.
That you just assume that there's like strength in numbers and like somebody's watching.
Yes.
But unless you've explicitly like really made sure that you can't assume that.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah, and lots of just distractions, especially with the kids are really, really little. You know, and within themselves, buddy systems, all of that, if there's a group of kids. We've all watched Home Alone.
Yeah. Yes.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
So same idea.
Yeah. No, I can think of a scenario when my son was not quite 2 and it was a social setting in a pool. And there was the assumption that I was there. And even though in my eyes, Alex was responsible. And then next thing we know, he fell in the pool.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Takes like a few seconds.
Yeah. He did have a life jacket on and I was right there, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to make sure you have that. Maybe it's not that designated person, but you have a conversation. If you're going to walk away, like, hey, you have your eyes on the kids, right?
Absolutely. I think, that's really important in those environments of like, when we're by the water, who's in charge? Like, like wearing a whistle, I think is really a key. It's just like that indicator. It's just like an indication. Like I'm the one that's in charge right now. And then when I'm leaving, someone else is getting it.
That's right.
You know, like I think that's actually really smart.
It is. Yeah. And so as much as we joked and laughed about it and thought it was unnecessary, it was very smart of them and very responsible.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
You can give someone make a funny hat.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Make it funny, but.
No, get a ball cap and it's printed.
Oh, yes.
And
designated parent or whatever that is going to be. Yeah.
So if someone's listening and they're like, hey, this is actually a great idea. I want to get started on this. What would you suggest for any listeners wanting to implement this within their own group of friends who they may vacation with?
To be honest, there's so many things to think about that we love to make resources and toolkits at Intentional Household. So we have a very handy travel one that you can download. And it will kind of give you an idea of where to start, how to get organized. Just make it really easy that you can look at in advance with a friend that you're thinking about traveling with and just make sure that you're all on the same page. That way nothing's missed. And then once you kind of have that, you're good to go. We can download it on our website, intentionalhousehold.com. We will link it below. It'll be in our link in bio and on Instagram. And it's just a great little handy tool to help you get organized and have a great trip with another family.
Thank you, Tatiana, so much for being here. Always love hearing your insights and your experience. So if you want to download that planning template, it will be on this podcast below. It will also be on our website and we will link it to our Instagram. If you liked what you heard, send us a DM. We always love hearing your comments and anything you've implemented based on our podcast. So thank you for listening and we will see you for the next episode.